Wow. I love men. You know, there have been men in my life who I've loved and who've gone away and made me feel sad, but still, it's not easy for me to say I love men. I'm a straight guy, but, you know, I'm queer friendly. I have gay friends, hang out in queer spaces. And still, the words I love men, they don't trip off my tongue so easily. I don't think most men can say that very easily. I think maybe it's because men aren't thought of as lovable so much. I think if you ask people what makes a real man lovable, not at the top of the list most of the time. Some of that's just homophobia. You know, at least for me, when the culture I grew up in was kind of white and lower middle class, and in that culture, being lovable, that was like being gay. And being gay, well, that was one of the worst things you could be. And so I think that keeps people from saying, I love men. A story. When I was 7, I was yanked across the country from Denver to California. And I had a great life in Denver where I built snow tunnels in the winter, rode my big wheel in the summer, and I hung out with my good friend Jason. I don't remember a lot of what Jason and I did because, well, we were 7. But I do remember the loss that I felt when I had to say goodbye. And I remember distinctly the last night that we were hanging out and he finally had to go home, and the next day I was going to go away forever. And we cried and cried and cried and cried. This is one of the things that we hear as men when we express our love for other men. Cry, baby. But, you know, Jason was my best friend. And I still feel that loss. I think about him all the time. And I don't talk about it much because, well, there's not a whole lot of mental, emotional, social space for men to talk about it. Most of my friends don't even know about Jason, and that's kind of weird sometimes, but it's not really that weird because men just can't talk about these things, generally. And they can talk about it sometimes in the context of a joke, you know, as an aside, from the periphery, but never directly, right? Another story. When I went away to college with my friend Dave, we kept getting asked if we were a couple. And you know, we weren't a couple, but we got asked often enough that we developed kind of a stock response, which was, hey, just because we suck a little cock, that doesn't make us gay. You people. And, you know, it was funny at the time. And, but also, I loved Dave. And the sad thing was that that was in public. That was one of the few ways that I could kind of express my affection for him. And, you know, as a joke, as an aside, kind of a half joke. And that's one of the things that gets to me about the way that men can interact with other men. I worry about men only being able to joke about their affections for other men. There's not a lot of space to talk about it. There are a couple of other spaces that men can talk about it. Sometimes, you know, in old war movies you'll see it, or sometimes at funerals, sadly, at church. But even there, you know, even there, this is something that we hear as men. Jesus loves you. But not in that way. I'm really glad that got a laugh because that would have been uncomfortable. So, recently I've really needed to talk about this because a friend of mine moved far away, and he's an old friend, and I felt a loss greater than any loss that I felt when I had a breakup, or even greater than the loss I felt when my uncle died. And I haven't really felt like I've been able to talk about it much or enough in most spaces. And I need to talk about it. People, men need to talk about this stuff. So this is what I wanted to say. This is to Jason and to Greg and to Steve and Chris and Dave and a few others, and most of all to my good friend Kareem. I love you and I miss you, and it's hard because I can't talk about it much, and that makes it even more difficult, but still. I love you and I miss you, and hey, you know, just because we suck a little cock doesn't make us gay. Thank you.